Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's just get right into it because we need to talk about a feeling that, well, way too many of us know. You know that sinking sensation in the pit of your stomach when you check your bank app and realize, yikes, things are way tighter than they should be. If you've ever felt the crushing weight of living paycheck to paycheck, just dragging yourself to the finish line of the month, you are absolutely not alone in that struggle. Today, we are digging into a brilliant, highly practical financial blueprint specifically designed from our source material for budgeting when you feel like you have literally no money to spare. It always leads to the exact same question: where did my paycheck go? It's an incredibly frustrating reality, right? I mean, imagine it's Tuesday. You literally just got paid on Friday. You paid your rent, grabbed some groceries, covered the absolute bare essentials, maybe got a tiny treat to celebrate the weekend, and then suddenly, poof, the money is just gone. It's a totally overwhelming cycle, and it's really easy to fall into the trap of thinking that budgeting is just some fancy organizational tool for people who already have tons of wealth. But diving into the research reveals that this is a complete myth. Budgeting isn't a restriction, it's actually the ultimate empowering solution to turn things around, no matter what your income level is. It's basically how you give yourself a raise without ever having to ask your boss. Okay, let's dive into this. We are going to restructure 10 essential financial tips from our source material into a clear, easy-to-follow 4-phase roadmap. Today, we'll cover 1. Building your financial foundation. 2. Managing spending and saving. 3. Tackling debt and daily costs. And finally, 4. Maintaining your budget long-term. So, Phase 1. Building your financial foundation. Now, just like a physical house, a strong financial house needs a rock-solid base. And in the world of personal finance, that base absolutely must be built on real, concrete numbers, not just optimistic guesses. The source material highlights a really interesting mindset shift right out of the gate here. As Dave Ramsey points out, a budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. And that brings us to the very first key insight: using real numbers. There is this fascinating and honestly slightly terrifying statistic that shows people consistently underestimate their weekly spending by 20 to 30% when they just guess in their heads. Seriously, tracking every single actual expense for a few weeks is literally the only way to combat this. Everything from your morning coffee run to that extra pack of gum at the convenience store to that recurring app subscription you completely forgot about. This is the definitive way to spot hidden leaks and get a crystal clear, brutally honest picture of your habits. Okay, so once those real numbers are right in front of you, the next step is jumping into a concept called zero-based budgeting. You earn your income, and then, and this is crucial, you give every single dollar a job. This is fascinating because it tackles something called Parkinson's Law, which states that work expands to fill the time allotted to it. Well, the financial equivalent is that expenses naturally rise to meet whatever your income is. By budgeting all the way down to zero, you prevent this. After your fixed expenses, required debt payments, and savings are handled, any leftover money has to be assigned a specific purpose right then and there. And hey, this doesn't mean you can't have fun. You can totally assign $20 a week to a guilt-free fun fund. But if you don't deliberately give that money a job, it will inevitably get swallowed up by impulse buys and just disappear without a trace. So the crucial point here is setting clear financial goals. Tony Robbins hit the nail on the head when he said, setting goals is the first step in turning the invisible into the visible. I mean, think about trying to hit a target with a bow and arrow while wearing a blindfold. It's practically impossible, right? Your financial goals are your target. Whether that's crushing a high-interest credit card, saving up for a more reliable car so you stop paying for constant repairs, or building a modest down payment. Your budget is simply the flexible roadmap to get you there. It takes these abstract, invisible desires for a better life and turns them into highly visible, actionable steps you can actually take every time you get a paycheck. Let's move to Phase 2, managing spending and saving. Now that we've got that strong mathematical foundation set, we really have to put our daily behavioral habits under the microscope. And this brings us to a concept we hear about all the time, but man, is it surprisingly difficult to actually master: separating your needs from your wants. The source material emphasizes that in modern life, this line gets incredibly blurry. Sure, needs are the things that keep a roof over your head: rent, basic groceries, utilities. But what about high-speed internet? 10 years ago, maybe a want. Today, if you work remotely, it's an absolute need. On the flip side, wanting the premium 100-channel cable package when you only ever watch 3 shows, yeah, that's definitely a want. But budgeting with a lower income isn't about miserable deprivation, not at all. It's about conscious choices. It's pausing to ask yourself if there is a cheaper alternative out there that would still bring you joy so you can free up capital for the things that truly move the needle in your life. Then we have the legendary investor Warren Buffett, who completely flips the traditional financial script right on its head. He says, do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving. This philosophy ties perfectly into the necessity of planning for irregular expenses. You really need to proactively build a separate safety net account. Finance folks often call this a sinking fund. Think about it, an annual car registration fee or holiday gifts aren't actually emergencies, right? They happen at the exact same time every single year, yet they constantly derail people's finances. By skimming a little bit of your paycheck into a sinking fund right away before you spend on the fun stuff, you smooth out your cash flow. It completely eliminates the panic when those totally predictable expenses finally hit. And speaking of panic, creating an emergency fund buffer is arguably the most stress-relieving step of all. A recent Federal Reserve study showed something shocking. A huge percentage of people couldn't easily cover a sudden $400 emergency using cash. No way. That is exactly why aiming for a highly achievable initial goal, like $600, is so incredibly powerful. Creating an emergency fund does not require saving thousands of dollars all at once, which I know can feel totally impossible. Just putting a small amount aside every single pay period to hit that $600 mark ensures that a sudden tire blowout or minor medical copay remains exactly that, a temporary, annoying inconvenience, rather than escalating into a full-blown financial disaster that forces you onto a high-interest credit card. Next up, Phase 3, tackling debt and daily costs. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that this phase is all about playing smart defense. It's about actively defending the hard-earned wealth you are trying to build from punishing high interest rates and those sneaky, everyday household leaks. Mark Cuban puts it so bluntly, pay off your debt first. Freedom from debt is worth more than any amount you can earn. When you carry high-interest credit card debt, compound interest acts like this mathematical gravity, just constantly pulling you backward. A 20% interest rate means you are paying a massive premium for things you bought months or even years ago. Making debt repayment a huge, unavoidable priority in your budget mathematically guarantees a return on your investment. Every single dollar that doesn't go to a bank in the form of interest is a dollar that stays in your pocket to fund your actual life.
And a fantastic way to accelerate that debt payoff is by plugging the physical leaks in your daily household spending. First, there is monitoring and adjusting your electricity use. Shifting to time-of-use energy plans and running energy-hungry appliances like your dryer during off-peak hours can genuinely slash your bill. And watch out for phantom power. That's electronics drawing energy just by being plugged in. Second, the source material highly recommends trying a bit of DIY before paying a professional. YouTube is an absolute gold mine for basic maintenance tutorials. Now, a quick caveat here, you definitely want to know your limits. You do not want to try and fix a $5 leaky faucet and end up with a $5,000 flooded bathroom. Actually, scratch that. Just don't touch the main plumbing. But learning simple things like changing your own engine air filter or patching drywall can keep a whole lot more money in your checking account over time.
And finally, Phase 4, maintaining your budget long-term. The absolutely biggest takeaway here is that a successful budget is not a set-it-and-forget-it document. It is a living, breathing plan that must continually evolve right alongside your real life. The recommendation is to review your budget monthly when you are just starting out. This is crucial because of something called budgeting shock. You know, that first month where you realize exactly how much you spend on takeout? Yeah, it's usually a bit jarring. Checking in monthly helps you build the actual muscle of financial discipline. Then, once you have the hang of it, you can safely shift to reviewing it every 3 months. Your rent might go up, your insurance costs might fluctuate, or, hey, maybe you finally land that promotion. Regularly adjusting ensures that your spending continually aligns with your goals, no matter how much your circumstances shift. We'll wrap up today's explainer with some timeless wisdom from Benjamin Franklin, who famously pointed out that by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. So the question I want to leave you with today is a bit of a challenge. Are you ready to stop wondering where your money went and start actually preparing for your financial future? Remember, the biggest myth out there is that you need to be wealthy to even start. You don't. You just need a plan, a bit of patience, and the willingness to take a brutally honest look at the numbers. Take the insights from this blueprint, start tracking your real expenses today, give every single dollar a job, and just watch how quickly you can take control of your financial destiny. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.